What's up guys, my name is Trent for those of you guys that don't know me, and I have been really excited to start this channel. This is the first video on this channel, the first video of this series, and I am going to be building a monster truck. All right, so when most people see a truck like this, it has been wrecked. This is a 2005 Toyota Tacoma. It has the 4.0 V6, and honestly, whoever had this car before me hit something absolutely massive. They destroyed basically the subframe, they bent the frame, they destroyed the A-arms, and so I have some really big plans for this truck. Like, the first thing on the list is I'm gonna be cutting off all of the IFS stuff. I'm gonna be doing a solid axle swap. I have Dana 60s front and rear that are gonna go on this. I have some 42-inch Trepadors. I have an Atlas 4-speed. I have the biggest aspirations for this. And I've done a little bit of fabrication in my day. I've done a lot of wrenching, so some of this stuff is gonna be new and some of this stuff is gonna be stuff that I'm very familiar with, but I'm really excited to get started. So first off, this project just started as doing like a solid axle swap on a Toyota, and then I was like, maybe I'll put a roll cage on it, and maybe I'll do a dual transfer case, and now it's evolved into like this fully custom job. And originally I was gonna do a solid axle swap, plate the frame, but then I found out the frame was a little bit bent. So now I'm actually gonna attempt to build a tube frame off the front end of this thing with motor mounts and a winch mount. And on the rear end, I'm gonna remove the bed and do a full cage back there. This thing's basically gonna turn into a truggy. The biggest challenge on this build is gonna be building the tube frame, the front end, because I'm gonna be cutting off the frame. That's what supports the motor. It's what's gonna support the whole front end, the suspension. It's very nerve-wracking because that has to be extremely strong and rigid and well-designed, and I'm basically gonna be doing it for the first time. So today, I really wanted to start this video because I've started working on the truck a little bit. I wish that I started filming for this channel when we first started tearing all of this apart. Most of this stuff was missing anyways because of the accident that this truck was in, but I went ahead and took off the suspension on this side, the lower control arm, which was actually broken off right here. And in today's video, I'm actually gonna be removing all of the suspension and the A-arms and everything off of the driver's side. I should probably preface by saying this is not a how-to channel. This is a how I'm going to do it channel, and if you guys are interested in seeing how this build turns out, click the subscribe button, come along on the adventure, but for now, I'm gonna get started. Probably the best part about tearing something like this apart is that I don't have to put any of this back together, so I can basically destroy it if it's being a pain in the butt. So some of you guys probably recognize me from our other YouTube channel. I run a DIY construction YouTube channel with my wife, Allie. It's called Trent and Allie, and we actually built our own home. Now we're building this garage, and this garage is like only about halfway done being built, but I'm antsy and I want to get like working on this project. All right, so I've got the lower control arm free, I've got the tie rod disconnected, sway bars disconnected. I'd like to disassemble this into as many small pieces as possible because I don't just have like a giant dumpster I can just throw these like huge parts into. So I'm gonna end up taking off like this whole side of the suspension in basically one piece, and then it'll be really heavy and hard to move, but at least it'll all stay together. Also, the bed of this truck is completely full of all of the parts that have come off of it, and those all basically need to go to the dump, so I've got my work cut out for me as far as transporting junk around. If I was at like a big shop and I had an easy way to dispose of things, since I'm basically doing a front end on the frame and everything, I would just take off the motor mounts, support the motor, cut the frame off, cut the sub body, and just take it all off as one piece. I have like a shop crane and some floor jacks and this lift, but like I don't have any way to pick up the front clip of this truck and like put it on a trailer and take it to the dump or something like that. Unfortunately, I've got to disassemble everything in pieces. Instead of taking the A-arm out and trying to remove that bolt from the shock tower, I think I'm just gonna remove this bolt out of the back of the ball joint and see if that comes out. I think that's what I did on the other side. It was a lot easier, and it's all getting cut off anyway, so it doesn't really matter. All right, Now this should come out kind of in one piece. There are a few things that are more disgusting and repulsive than like diff fluid, and once you pop those CV axles off, the whole garage is probably gonna smell like diff fluid until I get this like front diff out of here and like do something with it. So one thing that I am kind of having trouble with, and maybe people can leave comments of how they think I should do it, is when I do actually section off the front end of the frame, I'm not gonna pull the motor and I'm not gonna pull the drivetrain. So like, how should I support the motor until I build the frame around it? The issue is I think I'm gonna cut both of the inner fenders off as well. And so there's not gonna be anything in front of the firewall. So in order to rebuild motor mounts and support the motor, I have to like temporarily support the motor somehow. If you guys know a way that I should do that, I would love to read your comments about it, but until then, I'm just gonna be hacking away and cutting stuff off. I'm probably gonna start removing some of this front diff, the rack and pinion for the steering, and try and get all of that stuff out of here. And we'll see if I can get all of that done today or not. When I was working in auto shops, you had to have like an air hose and an air gun, and like these electric impact guns are literally like alien technology. They're so amazing. They're not like that much heavier than like a big impact gun. You don't have the hose, you don't have the leaking and hissing and the compressor running all the time. These things are awesome.
Showing your age there.
Showing my age. Well, you know, I know where I was when Kennedy was shot. You? Kind of funny because I am like rather confident, and I do have confidence in myself that I'll be able to accomplish this project. Just, you know, might take some help from some other people and a lot of time. I guess the problem is that like I'm smart enough to take all this stuff apart, and I'm probably almost smart enough to put it all back together, but I guess I'll be put to the test once that point comes. Really looking forward to having this thing finished, which is actually the problem when you have a project, is that you're always like hoping for the finish line and pushing to have it done. And so you like end up cutting corners in the long run, and I absolutely don't want to do that with this. But I really want this thing to turn out nice, so I'm gonna try to take my time, even though I'm gonna try and work quickly. I would really like to have this thing done by like Easter Jeep Safari, like this coming spring. But I have a lot of work to do before then. But that is the goal, is to have this vehicle road ready and mostly finished by Easter Jeep Safari. Probably my least favorite thing about this particular truck is this freaking goo that is all over it. So the power steering pump had some type of issue where it was leaking, and then if you have a leak that's next to any of the belts, it just like gets the like turbulence of the belts going, just like throws that fluid everywhere, driving, sprays it all over the place. So like this whole bottom left third of the motor like looks like it was dipped in chocolate fondue. It's like so thick and slimy and disgusting that I want to like spray degreaser on there and power wash it, but the vehicle is disabled and it's not going anywhere, and I don't want to do that inside my garage. So I'll probably like hit it with some degreaser and wipe it with the rag. And then once it's like all done and built, I'll actually pressure wash it. But I hate working on things that are super greasy, and it's gonna happen no matter what. So right now I'm going to undo some of the mounts that are gonna hold basically the front drive assembly, like the differential and stuff like that, that's attached to this cross support in the frame. And then the rack and pinion is attached to this cross support. And so I think instead of disassembling all of that, I may just get the plasma cutter out and like cut those supports off and just drop that whole cross member and save myself some time. I did get a new plasma cutter and a new welder basically just for this project, so I haven't even used the plasma cutter. It'd be really fun to actually use it. So
you did?
What?
You got brand new everything for just this build?
Well, just, I mean, for life, but starting with this build.
Trent.
What? It's been a while since I did like some real gnarly wrenching on vehicles, and I'm just starting to realize that sitting like this is just definitely not designed for people my age and older. I'm starting to feel the pain. There's basically a bolt that holds like one of the mounts on the diff, and it's like a giant hex key. It's probably like a 1/2 inch hex key or something. It's massive, and I don't actually have one, so I'm just gonna weld a new bolt on there so that I can have something to put a socket on, so that I can extract the bolt that's holding the diff on, so I can remove the diff. And then once I remove the diff, probably use the plasma cutter, cut off those supports, get the rack and pinion out of there. I'm trying to get as much done today as possible because I don't have so much time to be working on this truck all the time. I'm gonna make haste.
Yeah, it's a hot day. I'm making in the sunshine. You should hit me with a splash gun so I cool down. Won't you come on over?
Oh no. Forgot to put my gloves back on. I'm like the biggest no glove guy you've ever met. I absolutely hate wearing them, especially these like nitrile gloves that like tear every time you touch something. But there is something to be said about not having black hands all day, every day. And if I had just put my gloves back on, my hands were actually pretty clean. So now I've got that mount lifted up. It's just like lined up with this hole in the cross member. So I've got to kind of like fudge it over so that it kind of drops down. Hopefully I can get this to happen.
Won't you come on over? We can party till the sun's down. Baby, let me buy you a drink while we're dancing a blink. I could go for some Queen Bee too. Faces going boom boom.
Woo! Dang it. This has been a tough day. And like the shop heater's on in here, but as you guys can see, this garage is still under construction. So I have one garage door installed. One garage door is made of plastic. And I live in Utah, I live at 8,000 feet. It is like 30 degrees outside and we have about 4 feet of snow. So it's really cold outside and this heater has a hard time keeping it warm in here while there's still a plastic garage door. But probably in like the next week or so, I'll have another garage door there and we'll be able to heat it up in here. I won't have to wear a coat. It'll just be a little bit more comfortable to work in. Before I call it a day, I really want to use a plasma cutter, cut out these supports that are holding up the rack and pinion, get that whole system removed, and then I'll feel like I made some progress today.
It's getting kind of crazy up in here. Everybody wants a ride.
All right, so now I'm gonna attempt to cut this cross member off that's gonna hold all of our steering and the rack and pinion and all the stuff that's going with the IFS. First time using the plasma cutter, so don't judge me. All right, now it's really smoky in here and we don't have any ventilation, so I'm gonna try and get this thing disassembled really quick, maybe open up some doors, let some of the smoke out. But I got all the supports cut. I think the only thing holding it up now is the actual steering shaft connected to the rack and pinion. So there's another thing that I've noticed like while staring at this thing underneath it when we were taking off the fan and the radiator and the AC condenser and all of that stuff, and that's that the motor mounts do not even look remotely similar. And I know that they're the same part number because I bought replacements because this one looked like it's like torn apart. But when I look closely at it, it doesn't actually look like it's damaged. It just looks like a completely different motor mount, but also the motor is like sitting at an angle. There's like 7 inches of space over here and like 3 inches of space over here between the frame rails. It's wild, but like I was asking earlier, if you have any ideas on how I should support this engine while I cut the frame and while I actually build the tube frame so that I can put new motor mounts on, I would love anybody's input. I would love some help. Or if you think I'm doing things the wrong way and you have some input, I'd love to hear that as well. Make sure you leave me a comment. All right, well, I think that's probably gonna do it for me for today. This is probably gonna be a little bit shorter video than what you're used to if you've been watching Trent and Alley videos, but these are gonna be Trent's garage videos. They're just gonna be completely different, so not the same type of content if that's what you were expecting. And if you're new here, welcome. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope you're excited to watch this project unfold. I'm really, really stoked to start working on this project. So now that I got the steering rack and the diff out of the way, probably start cutting off the rest of those mounts and getting things ready to support this motor so that I can cut the frame off of the front end. There's a lot going on here. But anyway, I wanted to say thanks to all you guys for watching, tuning in. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure you show me by giving a big thumbs up on the video below. And don't forget to subscribe if you guys haven't already. And we'll see you guys on the next one.